Hello, I'm Chiranjib Sengupta, and you are with me on the Energy Connects podcast. In today's episode, our focus is on tripling the global renewable energy capacity by 2030. That was the historic commitment by world leaders at COP28 in Dubai a couple of years ago. And that agreement followed a recommendation by the International Renewable Energy Agency, or IRENA, to ensure that the world stays on track for the 1.5-degree pathway. But where are we today on that journey, and what has been the progress so far? To discuss that and a lot more, I'm delighted and honored to introduce our guest for today, Gauri Singh, the Deputy Director General of IRENA. Ms. Singh, thank you so much for joining us at the Energy Connects podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. And to start off, as an agency that closely monitors the energy industry, what are your thoughts on the pace of progress for the global energy transition?
So I think, that's a interesting question, especially given the times that we are in, because what did happen in the COP28 at Dubai was a landmark decision of tripling renewable energy and doubling energy efficiency by 2030, and it was agreed by over 130 countries. So it was a very important moment for the renewable energy sector because clearly there were very clear goals set out by the countries, and they were willing to be monitored on that. So in 2023, which was again a record year, where we saw nearly 473 gigawatts of renewables getting deployed on the ground, and we are expecting also a good progress that we are in the final way of putting together for last year. What that really shows you is that while on the one hand renewables are now the cheapest source of energy in most of the geographies, but what you also see is that even with this kind of a really encouraging progress that we are making of deploying renewables on the ground, we may still not be able to reach our tripling of renewables goal by 2030. And if I give it to you more in terms of the investment needs, because that's really the critical piece now, then what we see is that while about 570 billion US dollars got invested in renewables in 2023, we do need almost three times that amount to get to about 1,000 gigawatts of renewables getting deployed on the ground every year from this year to 2030, if we are really to catch that window of 1.5, to stay on 1.5 degrees, but also to be able to make sure that the political commitment that was made at COP 28 is really met.
No, that's an excellent point. And going back to your earlier comment about COP28 and the landmark decision that you spoke about, which basically followed a recommendation by IRENA itself prior to COP28. Now, what kind of action would you advocate to ensure that the industry comes back on track with this target?
Just as a matter of interest, when the countries decided to come up with this very historical consensus, the UAE consensus, IRENA was given the mandate of being the custodian of tracking the progress. So it was not just countries committing to something, but also they made sure that there is an agency, an institution that can track the progress that is being made in these 6 years that remain. And our approach has been to put together data and give analysis that's clearly backed by evidence 2 countries at pre-COPs every year. So, for example, in this year, we would be coming out with a second report on tracking progress at the pre-COP at Brazil. W- we do see currently that in some technologies like the solar PV, we seem to be making a fair amount of progress. It's on track, but a lot more effort needs to be done on the both onshore and offshore wind and other technologies. And it's something that needs the attention of countries. What's also quite remarkable in terms of the what comes out of the way the deployment of renewables is going is we see very major regional disparities. So definitely we would like to see countries in the global south picking up pace a lot more. Right now, of course, China and India are the ones that are leading the deployment along with some other countries in Asia. But a lot needs to be done in Africa, especially considering the rates of energy access, but also increasing the deployment to address the emerging growth in the need for electricity that many of the countries in Africa are now experiencing. So I would say that the tracking report is there for countries to see. There's obviously, if I look at in terms of the priorities that you would want the countries to be really thinking about, clearly getting more electrification in the end use sectors like transport, in the heating and cooling requirements of both buildings and industrial process. That's clearly a area where policies and regulations need to be put in place. Strengthening the grid infrastructure, getting the utilities to plan ahead to make sure that there's flexibility in the grids that can bring in these decentralized generation injected into the grid through renewables, and also their digitization and use of AI. That's very critical. I would say that without also energy efficiency going hand in hand, we will not be able to see the kind of results that we want to see by end of this decade. So these are all areas where the countries really need to focus their attention. And it's not just tangibles like investing in the grid infrastructure, but also, I would say, intangibles like working on the policy, the regulations to enable more renewables into the energy ecosystem.
That's a great point. I think balancing the tangibles and intangibles both. And earlier you spoke about the need for investments and closing that investment gap. But one of the factors that often comes up is also the cost. And you both at IRENA and prior to that bring decades of experience not just in formulating policy but implementing it at the grassroots level. Uh, so, from your viewpoint, how can countries and companies overcome this challenge?
This is really one of the myths that needs to be broken. This is a narrative that needs to be reshaped about how much renewables cost. I think this is a messaging that we try and give from IRENA, and we reiterate on it that almost in over 80% of the geographies, renewables is now the cheapest source of energy, and which means that you're looking at declining cost not only in solar PV that we are, of course, all aware of, and you would imagine that even after the substantial decline that happened over the last decade in solar PV, you'd think that there's some kind of a bottom that has been hit. But what I'd like to highlight is that even in 2023, the solar PV cost fell by about 12%. So it's still falling. And then you also had the cost of onshore wind falling by about 3% and offshore wind falling by about 7%. More importantly, we also saw a very sharp decline, and I take a longer period for that, say between 2010 and 2023, that happened for storage. Almost the cost declined by almost 90%. So that in itself tells you that this is a space where, as we are deploying more renewables, there's also a system learning that's happening. There's also an experience that is being gained in terms of how to work on the balance of system, on the core technology, and how to get the cost down even further. So that's still happening. So I think renewables right now is actually in a very good space where it's a strong business case. It's not just good to have, or it's not something that you want to do just because you're concerned about the climate, but it really does make sense as a business proposition, and which is why you're seeing a growth in the deployment happening on year to year, because it's good for the utilities, it's good for the customers, and it's also, of course, very good for the climate.
Great point there. And speaking of utilities, you spoke about the need to ramp up the grid infrastructure. So, how critical is the role of utilities in decarbonizing the grid as well as the energy system of the future?
I can only say that it's good to have the political commitment, because that's the starting point. It's also good to get that messaging from the top, so that you have the whole system that starts working to achieve whatever goal has been set by the political leadership. But the most critical piece is how the utilities will plan for this transition, because they are really the linchpin, the most important and critical factor as we move forward. There are utilities that operate across the entire value chain, from generation to transmission and to distribution. And in some countries, of course, it has been unbundled, and you have different utilities doing it. But nevertheless, I think talking about tripling of renewable energy by 2030 will have no impact unless we can have the utilities play and contribute to their potential in this whole piece of how energy transition really happens. I also think that because the utilities will have to invest in digitizing and bringing in AI to manage the huge real time data that they will now have to look at, because with renewables, you're also getting in intermittent power into the system. So that really requires dealing with a huge amount of real time information. So they will need to really upgrade. But also in terms of, I mean, globally, if I talk at the kind of investment that we need for the grids and infrastructure, we need about $730 billion a year. Right now, we are at about $400 billion. So we still not there. And both the aspects of getting an investment to upgrade and strengthen the grids, bringing in the flexibility through storage and digitization, and also planning for sector coupling. These are really the elements that the utilities will have to deliver on and to plan on, because grids is not something that you can have without a gestation period. So there is a gestation period that you need to keep in mind, and I think they need to be the grids and the utilities need to be really ready for the tripling more than any other constituent in this ecosystem of energy.
And I think an excellent platform to advance that discussion further will be the World Utilities Congress in May. And IRENA is a big part of that. What are you looking forward to?
It's a very good time to have the World Utilities Conference, and I'm saying that because there seems to be the headwinds that we see happening in this space, and the geopolitics really playing out in ways that you um, that might have an impact. So this is really a good time for utilities to come in and really um, reiterate their commitment to going net zero. IRENA, of course, wants to showcase the progress that we've made through our analysis at multiple levels, but also showcase the work and the impact of this very important alliance called the Utilities for Net Zero Alliance, or UNESA as we call it, where TAQA is a very important partner for us. IRENA does facilitate this whole alliance and works as the secretariat to take things forward. What's very encouraging is the commitments that have come not just in terms of generic statements, but what we've also heard is that the 54 partners which comprise of leading utilities, also power sector companies, which were all there at the COP28, have actually have committed to put in $117 billion annually for grids and for renewables, for building and refurbishing almost 80 million kilometers of grids by 2040. And that's a huge and a very specific commitment that has come in. So this is, I think, the World Utilities Congress will be a very important platform to showcase the strength that this alliance brings to the table and encourage other utilities to also be a part of this collaboration, because the utilities will need to work with the financial institutions, with the regulators, also as they strengthen their infrastructure. But for that, you do need international collaboration. You do need the supply chain enhancements to happen for them to really deliver what they've promised.
Absolutely looking forward to that. And Mr. Singh, thank you so much for your insights and your excellent analysis.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thanks for joining, and I hope you really enjoyed this episode. What were your key takeaways? We'll be delighted to hear your feedback. Let us know in the comments below. And a lot of themes that you heard during today's episode will be in the spotlight at the World Utilities Congress 2025, taking place in Abu Dhabi from the 27th until the 29th of May. Make sure to register today and get your delegate access at worldutilitiescongress.com. That's it for today, and I'll be back with more guests from across the energy industry in the next episode of the Energy Connects podcast. Stay tuned.